I just want to say we're so passionate about classic movies. We're going to expand the conversation.
You can see the passion that's in this room.
It's thrilling to the core.
Put a new spin on some vintage films.
It's classic movies and more.
So I'm Aurora for Classic Movies and More, and today I'm sitting and talking for a little bit with two of our favorite people online and in life, Gary and Kellee Pratt. So let's talk about classic movies. How did you guys? I know, right? How did you become a classic movie fan, Kellee?
Well, for me, I guess for most people, it often starts young in life, and so it was everything from watching on Saturday mornings in the little town I was living in as a kid. I must have been, I don't know, 3rd grade, 4th grade. On Saturday mornings, they would show at this local theater, Keystone Cops and Laurel and Hardy and Charlie Chaplin and kind of a lot of Mack Sennett kind of stuff. And so that was probably my first glimpse into old stuff, and I thought it was hilarious. And to this day, physical comedy is one of my favorites. And screwball comedies, those are just great. But I also had influence from my grandmother, who kind of took it upon herself as, this is part of your education, so you must watch this film. And,
that's awesome.
So I remember one of my earliest memories is her insisting that I explore Witness for the Prosecution, which is not exactly a kid film, but that's how she was. I mean, this is part of who you should, be.
Yeah, was this in Kansas?
That was in Kansas, and then the Keystone Cops and all of that was in Taos, New Mexico, because I did have kind of a split child between Kansas City and Taos, New Mexico. And then my Uncle Patrick, he also influenced me with a lot of Alfred Hitchcock. So I must have been kind of a twisted little kid. Yeah. I was really into
and it remained. Right?
Yeah, and so Agatha Christie stuff and Alfred Hitchcock and all of that was
that's awesome.
Definitely one of my favorites.
Good.
Yeah.
Carrie?
For me, it started, I think, with the Universal monster movies when I was a kid, and we'd watch them on Sundays, and sometimes Friday nights they would play them late. And then I did a lot. My dad was the Air Force Master Sergeant, and so I watched a lot of war movies with him. And I really got into a few that were more like The Great Escape, and then some of the Jimmy Stewart movies, some of his early work when he was, when he was in the Air Force, and really made the Flight of the Phoenix made a really big impact on me. Kind of the challenge of somebody, Bridge on the River Kwai. So I didn't have as much exposure to the older Silence, but those and maybe Laurel and Hardy really were my. I was a farm kid. I was the last one to leave the farm, so I was alone a lot. So I'd either be working or watching these old movies.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you guys get a lot of opportunity to see classics on the big screen in Kansas now?
Surprisingly,
Yes.
we do. You wouldn't think in the middle of what people probably think of as the middle of nowhere, but we do have in our town of 90,000 several opportunities, and it's interesting how much history and opportunities there are for silence. So we actually are pretty lucky in that way, and it's an area that I wasn't as fully comfortable with, like comedies within silence. I had obviously some influence on, but the other stuff I didn't really understand. So we're lucky that we have the Kansas Silent Film Festival, which is in Topeka, Kansas. A half-hour
How's
drive.
the audience for that? Does it get a good turnout?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Good. Yeah.
And people come from far away. The only challenge with that one is it's usually the 2nd, 3rd week of February, which never fails.
Cold,
it's
icy winter.
Like horrible blizzard or something.
I have to make it out there for that though.
But that's a great one. It's 100% free, and it goes over the weekend. And they do find unique, cool films and shorts, and they also have, great guest speakers that are educational. And then there's the Buster Keaton celebration, which is right by Buster Keaton's hometown, which is also free.
And that's a weekend-long event too, right?
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun. And both festivals do a good job of, they really show things for cinephiles, things that are a little bit not shown as much, and maybe have family members there to talk. So there's that linkage across generations.
Free is foreign to us in the Northeast. I don't know about the rest of the country, but it blows my mind that anything is free.
Well, and I think if anything, we're trying to ask our classic film friends, it's like, no, come out, come, you will, you know, you can
Yeah.
stay with us,
Yeah.
whatever, just because it's inexpensive. If you can get there,
Yeah.
it's pretty inexpensive. And then there is also other silents and talkies shown through a gentleman in town. He owns a shoe store, and he has this passion for classic films.
Huge proponent of classic film.
So
Yeah.
he has fronted his own money, and he will bring in Montalto and
Wow.
you know, he
Every
will have
time
an
Battleship
orchestra.
Potemkin.
Battleship
Really?
Potemkin he brought in with Montalto, and so he will bring in an orchestra. He will put them up in his house, and we show it at our local art center.
Oh, maybe we should talk to him.
Yeah, and he's
That's awesome.
and so Mick has been a big supporter of classic film and silence, and then
Well, he is a good. By the way, he has a great knowledge of classic film, so he would just be an interesting person to talk to.
Yeah.
So him and his wife know quite a bit about classic film.
and they usually do the cruise, the TCM cruise,
Oh,
but
okay.
not usually the film fest.
Okay.
So and we'll usually bump into them at the Kansas Silent Film Festival.
Yeah. Well, now that you mentioned TCM, it's played a role in our getting to know each other and the community of people that we've met and become friends with. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, to get into the origins of it, you could say that, how we met is how a lot of folks that we know met, and that's first through online, through social media, and I know for us, it's Twitter first, that's our favorite, and then TCM Party was, we're lucky that we were part of the alumni, the original crew of folks that started TCM Party, which was back in June of 2011 with TCM Drive-In, and they showed that summer fun campy drive-in
Yeah, it was
movies on
Thursday
nights.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of us started just communicating, because we noticed we were tweeting about those features while watching it. And then it's like you started noticing, these people are fun and they're into the same stuff, and it became a regular thing. And then we wanted to continue it beyond that. So then, Paula, continued that by creating it officially, but just communicating, and it went so much further. So it was communicating through Twitter and through online, and then you become friends with these people and you feel like you know them so well.
I know.
So I remember being really nervous the first time I met you, because I thought, she's gonna think I'm crazy, because I'm gonna be like jumping excited, like squee, like so excited.
By the way, it comes across on Twitter. so I was prepared.
3-4 exclams.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
And we talked about it, like even on the phone, it sounds like, are you smiling right now? Because you can tell. Like, I was just so excited to meet you and all of the TCM Party people and all these other classic film friends that you've gotten to know. Some on Facebook, that's not as much my favorite as the Twitter experience, but you get to know these people, and then to see them face to face at TCM Film Festival, it was like a dream come true.
What's funny is you meet a lot of these people later in person, and they're some are extroverts, a lot of introverts, but on Twitter they're very extroverted.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a safe place to talk.
Right.
And when we started the TCM Party, those were really about campy movies and having fun and maybe talking, chiming in at a certain part of the movie. And then over time we would friend each other, and I noticed like we'd have a noir night, which was maybe a little more serious. We would do some fun comments, but it was not as hokey or campy as we were doing before. And then it was silent movies, and so you start to do subsets.
Right.
And
right.
the friendships were really interesting, the way they started building.
Yeah, I found, and I've said this several times, that I was always surprised at how real our connections were before we actually met.
Yeah.
We were friends because we had classic movies in common, which is weird, right?
Well, which is why I was so nervous about meeting you in person for the first time, and everyone else, because I thought they're going to think, I was worried that it was going to be that case of people that seem extroverted on Twitter or online, but when you meet them face to face, they're introverts, and they like, okay, why are you hugging me? You weirdo creeper, am I going to have to get call the police on what a creepy weird lady this is? But it wasn't like that at all. And I think, or maybe people have just gotten used to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, it's just been amazing.
No, it's great. It's great. So tell me, do you have any special memories as a couple with classic movies?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could start with our wedding, because our wedding was a classic film wedding. And it was themed, well, first of all, it took place in a movie theater, an indie art house movie theater that has great history. Goes back before the Civil War, is how long that building. It was Kansas' first, the home of their first abolitionist paper, because our particular town in Lawrence is known as like the place where the free state versus, pro-slavery states across the border in Missouri. There was a lot of action going on in our town back then. And so it's kind of it's always been known as like this progressive little town. And this theater is still going. It's still operating as a theater. And so when we got married, when we were going to get married, I was like, let's do a movie thing.
We started like comparing notes on what we really loved and had passion for, and we're like, we could have a movie themed wedding. We could really do, let's just throw caution to the wind and do the thing we want to do rather than be so formal.
Right.
And then we started like looking into it and got it together pretty quickly. And the fun part was, once we decided on the theme, kind of made the wedding. We did popcorn and candies and really traditional things.
Stuff, yeah.
And then we did I did sort of a story of how we met. But
That's my favorite part, by the way.
I edited together all these film clips of famous movies that we just loved, going all through Doris Day and different war movies, and even the Brady Bunch. We even brought on some primetime TV. Just about little snippets of how we thought of each other as we were dating until we got married, and I made them. Back then, she was not as much of a night owl, and she would fall asleep pretty early, and so I would make these in bed, editing them every night through the summer until the wedding day, and then I premiered it like 15 minutes or 17 minutes on the big screen.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was we, for the wedding itself, we had. Well, first of all, everything was not only in the theater, but we had like the centerpieces were like reels of film with a little tiny projector with famous couples, movie couples. So you'd have, and not necessarily like romantic couples, but duos sometimes.
Yeah.
So you might have, Doris Day and Rock Hudson, or Laurel and Hardy, or just all sorts of, and so those were the centerpieces for each of the tables. But after the ceremony, then, and there were some fun parts of the ceremony too. Like he surprised me when a couple of things. He had the judge that officiated it up on a stage, by the way. He started, we also love The Princess Bride. And so he started off going, marriage!
We actually talked him into it, and he was like, really? Should I say this?
Really?
And he did it. And
Old Judge Murphy.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he was a great sport about it. And then there was another part where, we were getting, I don't know what moment it was, it caught me off guard, but he had all of his groomsmen, he had 5.
Yeah, we handed out cameras to everybody with little flashes, and I knew that she was in the movies and the red carpet moment. And I'm like, let's give her one of those.
Yeah.
So at a certain time when she was supposed to respond, I had all the groomsmen lean over, and they all had cameras, and they all took shots of her.
And they're like, Kelly, look this way. I was on the red carpet, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, ah! And so I froze for a second, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to play this up. And I was like posing and stuff like that, and I just played along.
That was really funny.
Because you're so shy.
Right.
Yeah.
Again,
Total
the wallflower.
introvert.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but the film that he created through clips that tells the story of how we met and fell in love and what it was like to be in a big Irish family. So, of course, he used a clip from The Quiet Man and so forth. Those were what he presented. That little mini video was presented up on the big screen.
Doris Day slapping Rock Hudson.
Yeah, I did that part. When he's asleep.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, baby. And that was, part of the reception, the party afterwards, and it was just magical.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Each of you tell me your absolute favorite classic movie.
Oh gosh, you know,
Yeah, that's
everyone
fine.
hates this question.
I know. That's why I asked it.
Okay, you go first.
So I have to do two. I'm sorry.
No.
So and I've already mentioned one. Flight.
I'm even impressed you can pick just two.
Well, they mean something to me. Flight of the Phoenix reminds me of my dad, and it reminds me of the best of my childhood with my dad. And he was my hero, and I think Jimmy Stewart in that, trying to hold everything together, and we wouldn't have a lot of money. We struggled, and Farmers meets Air Force, and I think that movie and that humor and element really called to me. And then it's interesting. I don't think I was obsessed with classic movies as much as she was when I was growing up, but I didn't realize it. Casablanca, though, made a big impact on me, and I know that's everybody. Usually, that's everybody's like go-to film, but there's like so much emotion and patriotism, and then romance and story in that, and they were like every cast member is perfect, and that really stuck with me. And it even influenced when I was in college. I did a study on Humphrey Bogart. I did a lot of artwork based on him because he was such an influence.
Yeah.
And so those two are like my go-tos.
Arguably one of the greatest ensembles ever.
Yes.
Supporting cast, right?
There wasn't a flaw in casting in that.
Everybody who appears on screen, no matter how small the part, is just memorable. You can't forget these people.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Okay, Kelly.
This is impossible. It's
Chapter 1.
Yeah, it's just like when people
It
find
is.
out that
It
you're
is.
into classic movies when they are not. They're like, "Oh, what's your favorite film?" And I can never answer the question. It's just so hard because I think, when you're as deep of a fan as we are, it's like picking your favorite child. Like it's
I agree.
impossible because there's so many. And I tend to have pretty eclectic tastes, so. While I love the 30s and pre-codes and so forth, I can pick films from every era, from silence to, the stuff that even comes out today. But, when I was a kid, I would say, when I was asked, my favorites were The Philadelphia Story and Arsenic and Old Lace. And the Philadelphia Story kind of represents the first time I truly discovered and fell in love before you, dear. Cary Grant is always my favorite, and it's just there wasn't a flaw in that man in every way. And Arsenic and Old Lace, which is also a Cary Grant film, but I think it also represents in me that somehow dark, twisted humor I must have somehow as part of me, because to me I find it hilarious. The irony of these two bitty ladies that seem so sweet and they are like beloved and everything, and like of course we poison them.
Exactly. We're doing them a favor.
And even though Cary Grant, to him it was like probably his worst film. Like he hated making that film, and it was his least favorite film of the films he made. And I disagree. Sorry, Cary, I disagree with you.
Yeah, because he could do everything.
He could do everything, and I think he's also one of those guys that was really tough on themselves. But it was also a film that it was going through a hard time in our history, and he donated 100% of the proceeds, his salary from that film went to war bonds, the World War II efforts, which again shows what an amazing guy that guy was.
Yeah.
But I'd say when I was younger, there were two films that I would call the films that got me through everything. Like no matter what, I would watch those films, have a great time, and that was The Great Race, and it's a mad world. Yeah. There's four mads there. Obviously there's a theme here, which is comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy is my favorite.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for being here. This was a lot of fun. I think everybody's going to enjoy listening to you two talk. But tell me what your blog is. You're a blogger.
Yes, so I blog at Outspoken and Freckled, which is for obvious reasons. And you can find it at kelleepratt.com, and that's two E's at the end of Kelly, so KELLE Pratt.com.
Okay.
And of course, Twitter is IrishJayhawk66.
Okay. Well, again, thanks. This was a lot of fun,
Thank
and I
you.
hope you enjoyed it too.
Yes, thank
It was
you.
great.
Okay, great.